Hi all, and now welcome to Night Rips. So today I'm going to go ahead and do something that I have been teasing for some time now. I'm going to do this new monthly segment, but before I go into exactly what that is, let me give you some background. So on Beckett.com, one of the Bleacher Report columnists by the name of Joel Reuter did a set of articles, what he was calling the $100 one-page collections. Basically what he would do is he would take a theme and with a budget of $100, say what he would buy. Well, I'm going to take that to the next level. And what I'm going to call this is actually the Nightworks 9-Card Collection Challenge. For those that don't know, Nightworks is actually my Twitter, Twitch, and anything else handle. And it's actually where Night comes from for Night Rips. But what I decided to do is take Joel up on his offer. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to randomly choose a theme. And then using that $100, go ahead and try to buy 9 cards to complete that theme. I'm doing this once a month. I'm not going to count any taxes or any shipping, but what I'm planning to do is fill out, you can barely see it on here, one of those 9 slot sheets that you can put in one of these 3-ring binders. The other thing I'm going to do is some of the rules that I'm going to set for myself. Of course, this is my own challenge. Some of the rules is the cards that I'm going to get will be when the players actually are in the game, either as a player or something else. Most of the time as a player. Probably won't be doing any graded because this is a $100 challenge and we'll get 9 cards for $100. So it's roughly about $11 a card. And again, whatever I can get on eBay or anywhere else. These are not going to be cards that I currently have. So with that being said, of course, one thing I do want to mention, at the end of this episode, I am going to do that random lookup so that I can actually see what my next month challenge is. I'm also going to be doing I'm going to the National this year, so I'm going to actually do a show that's just going to do 3 random picks. Because the plan is, using the value boxes at the National, I'm going to try to complete 3 9-card collections. So, that all being said, let's go ahead and tell you what the first not randomized theme is. That's right, it's the Braves. Of course I'm going to pick the Braves as my first one, simply because I needed something probably pretty easy for me since the Braves are my hometown team. Also, the Braves going into the 151st year, you can imagine there's a ton of cards. Of course, there's a ton of cards that cost a lot, and we're going to have to keep this under $100, so you're going to see what I pick. I'm also going to go why I picked each one of the cards, give a little background story, and of course background on that player. So let's go ahead and begin with card 1. So for that first card being the center pocket, that's going to be the heart of our collection every time. Sometimes that's going to be tough, but honestly, when it comes to the Braves, there is only one heart. As a matter of fact, as you can tell from these pictures here, both as the heart of Monument Garden and the heart of center field all season, to include this one from the World Series. Number 44 is basically the people think about whenever they hear the Braves. That person being Hank Aaron. Now, Hank Aaron, of course, he spent 23 years in Major League Baseball, 21 of those with the Braves, both with Milwaukee and Atlanta. He did spend his last 2 years back with Milwaukee with the Brewers before he retired. But the funny thing about Hank Aaron is he actually played, before the Braves, he played for the Indianapolis Clowns in the Negro League. Played for them for about 3 months. And after those 3 months, because he was such a great player, he actually got 2 offers to come to the MLB. One of those from the New York Giants, the other one from the Milwaukee Braves. Funny thing about that is that he chose the Braves simply because the Braves offered to pay him $50 a month more. If he would have chose the Giants, he would actually got to play with Willie Mays. So I'm just happy that Milwaukee decided to pay him more. and he became a Brave. Now, of course, with Hank Aaron, everybody remembers Hank Aaron because of number 715. Back in April of 1974, he hit that home run. He had death threats, you name it, but he hit that home run and break Babe Ruth's all-time home run record here in the deep south of Atlanta. That's why, for my first card, I decided to get, this is actually in 1974, Hank Aaron, after he had, beat the all-time home run. This is actually after 715. He went on to hit 755 home runs between the Braves and the Brewers, but this was that one card that came out after breaking the record. Now, one thing you're going to notice with these 9-card challenges, because I am dealing in card, I have a budget that I have to stay with. Sometimes you're going to see damage on some of these cards. I am going to get authentic cards. They're probably not necessarily going to be graded high, especially whenever I start dealing in the older cards. But, obviously we got a little bit of damage, but still a great card. And this is going to be the center of my collection. Now with Hank Aaron still holds a lot of the records. He still holds the records for total bases, most RBIs, most extra base hits. Hank was also a 25 times All-Star. He won the MVP the year that, he did win the World Series. That would be in 1957. Obviously his number, his accomplishments go on and on. He was a first-time ballot Hall of Famer, got actually a 97.8% approval in his first year. And he is actually one of the retired numbers for the Braves. So that's why Hank Aaron is my first card and the center of my collection. This card that I'm showing you here, I actually picked it up off of eBay for $8.99. So that's the first card. For my second card, I decided to, since Hank was the heart, I decided to get one of his cohorts in crime. The funny thing about this next player that I'm about ready to show, he is actually the only player who played for every city the Braves have ever been in. He started with the Boston, he went all the way through Milwaukee, and then he traveled to Atlanta whenever they moved in 1966. So that player being Eddie Matthews. Of course, Eddie Matthews was a great third baseman. And honestly, on a lot of teams, he would have actually been the premier player if you didn't have to play second fiddle to a person by the name of Hank Aaron. Funny thing is, and I'll link it in the description below, is on March 5th in 1960, there was a show that was on television at the time known as the Home Run Derby. There was an episode, the episode I'll link, was actually a competition between Hank Aaron and Eddie Matthews of who could hit the most home runs. Kind of similar to the home run derbies that you'll see during the All-Star weekend, but a little bit different. Again, I'm not going to say who won. Go ahead and click on the link below, because it's actually interesting to see the two of them talk back and forth. So when it comes to Eddie Matthews, he actually had a little bit different path than what Hank Aaron did. Hank obviously was with the Braves for most of his careers, spent the last 2 years with Milwaukee before he retired. Eddie Matthews actually spent a couple stops at a couple other teams. He did go to the Houston Astros in 1967, and then in 1967 and 68 also spent time with the Detroit Tigers. Because of that, he is a 2-time World Series champion. Obviously, he was with the 57 Braves whenever they won then, and then in 68 with the Tigers. Now, for the card that I pulled on this one, and this one, I did this one because this one's a little bit different. Obviously, there's some great cards that you can pull from Eddie Matthews. His rookie card, as you see here, was actually from the 1952 Topps, and while everybody in 1952 talks about Mickey Mantle and the multi-million-dollar card, probably a pretty close second is the Eddie Matthews, since that was his rookie card. You can easily get a bad condition of that one and pay over $100,000 or more for that card. But I want to be a little different, because obviously $100,000 is going to blow a $100 budget on this collection. I decided to pull This is actually a 1973 Eddie Matthews manager card. And the reason I pulled this one, there's a couple reasons, honestly. 1973 was his first year as his first manager card. He was the manager of the Braves for I'll say a couple years. Really, it wasn't. He was actually fired partway through the 1974 season. He was actually the manager when Hank hit his 715. And since Hank and Eddie were friends, Hank was actually upset whenever they fired him. But while Eddie was a great player, he was really a terrible manager. He actually did not have a winning season. The other reason I pulled this card, there's two versions of this card. And it has nothing to do with the Eddie Matthews. If you actually look up here at Lou Burdett, you'll notice that his right ear is missing. There's versions of this card that has his ear and versions that don't. This version's the one that does it, which is actually the more common version. But just a little interesting thing. Fortunately, since Eddie was not a good manager, these cards don't cost much. And this card specifically came to off of eBay for $3.61. So let's go ahead and check out card number 3. For the third card, I decided to go a little bit different. One of the things that you'll notice with the Braves is when we win World Series, it always has to do with the pitching. We've always had great bats, but it was always the pitchers that made the difference. You just look at 2021 with Charlie Morton, Matt Fried, Ian Anderson. Great pitchers. Definitely, we had the bats before. Once we got the pitching crew there, off we went. Same was true about 1995, and the same is true about 1957. I'm not really sure about 1914, but that was quite a ways back. But with 1957, we had who's actually considered the best left-handed pitcher of all times. That man by the name of Warren Spahn. Now, Warren Spahn, he actually has the 6th most wins of pitchers in history. And there's a lot of times that people will say, if he hadn't gone to war, which he did in the 40s, that he would probably have been third behind Cy Young and Walter Johnson. Now, Warren Spahn, he came from Boston. He actually had a teammate that, if you've ever heard the saying, Spawn and Sane and pray for rain, him and Johnny Sane were a tandem of pitchers in Boston that just lights out. And actually that poem itself came from a writer from the Boston Post, his writer by the name of Gerald Hearn. It was a little poem that he wrote in the Post that said, first we'll use Spawn, and then we'll use Sane, and an off day, followed by rain. Back will come Spawn, followed by Sane, and followed by, we hope, by 2 days of rain. That was actually inspired by a true story where during the 1948 pennant drive, the two of them pitched, and they actually had rain delays, and they were actually pitching doubleheaders. So in those 12 days, they went 8-0. So great pitchers. As a matter of fact, they never had a card together until 2012, which I show you here. That card, of course, I'm not going to have it in my collection because obviously Sane, he's not with us anymore. He died in 2003. But that card didn't, since it wasn't during his lifetime, I'm not going to add it to my collection. But what I did want to add to my collection was this one. Of course, this is a 1957 Warren Spahn card. What's special about this one, obviously, as you know, 1957, the Braves, at the time would be the Milwaukee Braves, actually won the World Series, with Warren Spahn being the MVP of the World Series. Now, what was really interesting about Warren Spahn, one of the things that he always did, he actually only said that a pitcher only needed 2 pitches. You need one pitch that they were looking for and one to cross them up. And players didn't like when Warren Spahn came into the game. He was not a heavy strikeout person, He would definitely confuse the batters, and was one of his signature moves was that extremely high leg kick. And actually at Truist Field, and this statue's been around for a couple of the fields now. As you can see here, you can see how high he used to kick his leg. Not a strikeout leader. He was definitely a wins leader, especially as a lefty, probably the best lefty of all time, to the point where the best left-handed pitcher of a season actually wins now the Warren Spahn Award. But his role was he put the ball into play, ground balls or pop-ups that were easily fieldable. So Warren Spahn, obviously, he played quite a long time with Boston and Milwaukee. He did go to the Mets in 65, and then the Giants, and that's where he ended. But the funny thing, there is a story between him and Juan Marichal. They actually played a game that actually went 17 innings. Now, at that point, Warren Spahn was 42 years old. Juan Marichal was 25. It ended up, Marichal threw 227 pitches, Spahn threw 201. And in that game, Marichal got the win because of a 1-0 hit by Willie Mays. But several times the manager kept going out to Marichal asking, do you want to get pulled out of the game? Marichal would look over at Spahn and says, do you see that man over there? He's 42, I'm 25. I'm going to be out here as long as he is. Funny thing about Warren Spahn, they always wondered if he was ever going to go into the Hall of Fame, because they were ever wondering if he's ever going to stop pitching. Of course he did. He ended up becoming a first ballot Hall of Fame in 1973 with a 82.89% approval. This is my highest value card. Obviously it's 1957 and actually in decently good condition, going for just over $16. Let's go ahead and move on to card number 4. Now, I mentioned it before. Whenever the Braves wins World Series, it all has to do with pitching. And the next 3 cards, I'll go ahead and group them together, is actually one of those pitching trios that we call the triplets that actually helped us win the 1995 World Series. Of course, those 3 pitchers being Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, and Tom Glavine. As you can see, this is the pitcher of the triplets, but let's go ahead and break out the cards individually now. First one I'm going to pull out is Greg Maddux. Now, obviously, Greg Maddux, and this would be Greg, a lot of people remember him as a Cub. He actually spent the majority of his career as a Atlanta Brave, where he spent 10 years. He had a lot of stops in the MLB. Matter of fact, he ended up going to 5 different teams, a couple stops with the Dodgers. Obviously, I mentioned the Cubs, the Padres. Actually went to the Cubs twice. Consecutively, he spent most of his time, 10 years, with the Braves. In those multi-years that he was all over the place, he ended up picking up 4 Cy Youngs, to include the 3 that he picked up with the Braves, and was such an efficient pitcher that he actually has a achievement named after him. If you may have heard of the term a Maddux. Maddux is a complete game on less than 100 pitches. Greg Maddux was actually so good at it, he actually did it 13 times. Now, the card I'm showing you here is from 1997. Obviously, it's not the World Series year. It was actually a year, the reason I pulled this one is this one was in 1997, he actually threw 2 Madduxes. Of those 2 Madduxes he threw, he did throw one against the Cubs with only 78 pitches, which was his lowest amount. He also, 3 weeks earlier than that, he threw one on 84 pitches with the defending champion New York Yankees. Now, Greg Maddux, obviously, he stayed in baseball. He does come around every once in a while. I've actually seen Maddux throw out the first pitch at a Braves game. But right now, he's actually the pitching coach at the University of Nevada. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer with 97% of the vote. And obviously, he has won, actually all 3 of the triplets has their numbers retired with the Atlanta Braves. Now let's move on to the next pitcher, next one of the triplets. So we mentioned Greg Maddux, and right behind Greg Maddux, who actually had the second most wins, Maddux having the most in the 90s with 174, was a man by the name of Tom Glavine. Now, Tom Glavine, much like Warren Spahn, was a left-hander. As a matter of fact, he is one of only 6 left-handers who actually got over 300 wins. Of course, Warren Spahn having the most of those. Now, Tom Glavine was a 2-time Cy Young winner, much like Glavine being 4. Matter of fact, Tom Glavine actually had a Cy Young the year before Greg Maddux did. Tom actually started with the Braves, and that's why for the card that I pulled from this one is actually from 1988, being his rookie card from Topps. The funny thing is I actually first bought this Bowman, and as you can tell, it's actually almost the same photo. He's just looking in a different direction. I guess a different photo. And this one obviously from 1987. Now, Tom Glavine, much like Warren Spahn was the MVP of the World Series in 1957, Tom Glavine was actually the MVP of the World Series in 1995. He played with the Braves from 1987 until 2002, and then actually came back to us in 2008 for 1 year. He did a little brief stint with the Mets for some reason, but he came back to retire as a Brave. Tom Glavine, again, he's another one of the Braves pitchers, the triplets, that actually has his number retired with the Braves, and was a first ballot vote with a 91.9% acceptance. Let's go ahead and move on to our third and final of the triplets. So next card. And to get to card 6, obviously the last of the triplets, we're going to talk about John Smoltz. Now, Smoltzy, as he's commonly known as, he currently is a broadcaster. You'll see him during the World Series, All-Stars. I think he still does Fox and MLB Network. But he was a very, very proficient pitcher. Again, another one that started with the Atlanta Braves. Was an Atlanta Brave for most of his career. He did do half a year with Boston, half a year with the Cardinals. But, he's pretty much been a Brave his entire career. Now, one of the problems with John Smoltz is that he was one that was a little bit more injury prone. He actually got Tommy John surgery in 2000 and had to miss the season. Of course, a lot of good pitchers did or has gotten Tommy John and comes back fine. Now, John Smoltz, he was a little bit different when he did this. He actually went from being in the starting rotation to going to the bullpen. And because of that, actually, he is he's only the second pitcher in history that recorded a 20-win season and a 50-save season in the same season. He's also the only pitcher in Major League history to actually get over 200 wins and 150 saves in his career, since he was both a starter and a reliever. Now, Smoltz, we talked about Maddux with his 4 Cy Youngs. We talked about Glavine with his 2. Smoltz actually got 1 and potentially could add more. Problem is when you actually are pitching with 2 other great pitchers, it does hurt you a bit. Now, he is the record holder for the number of strikeouts with the Braves, with 3,011 strikeouts. Also has the most career pitched games with the Braves with 708. So I'll go ahead and show you the Smoltz card that I have. And for those that don't catch that, just to let you know, that's not John Smoltz. Actually, part of the reason I chose this card is there's John Smoltz. This was from the 1990 Donruss, where the first batch of cards actually put his teammate Glavine on his card. So I thought that was kind of cool. Now, granted, this card, I got the 2 cards together. If you just want the one Donruss card, because, this is in the middle of the junk wax time, it doesn't cost you much. I ended up getting these 2 cards for a little over about $9 for the 2. But I thought that was kind of cool that, pulling both the real card and the error card in the same one. Now, Smoltz, he pitched for the for the Braves from 1988 until 2008. 2009 was the 1 year that he was gone, and then he retired. He's also a first ballot Hall of Famer, just like the other two of the triplets, getting inducted in the Hall of Fame in 2015 with 82.9% of the ballot. Again, multi-time All-Star, I think 8 times there, Cy Young winner, World Series champion, part of the triplets that actually got the World Series for the Braves. And now he does commentate quite a bit with the Braves. Even though if you actually listen to him commentate, sometimes you wonder if he even likes the Braves anymore. So that's it. Card number 6, the triplets. Now let's go ahead and move on to some of the other interesting ones when it comes to my particular collection. For my card number 7, I actually chose, honestly, one of the players I grew up watching. When back in the 80s, that's the time when WTBS, WGN both came into existence and became basically national channels. Really, what team you followed was based on which of the channels you got first. In my particular area, we ended up getting WTBS, therefore I became a Braves fan. I've been a Braves fan since like 80, 81, so it's been a long time. So obviously, the players that I followed, because we didn't have a local team, you would follow somebody from your team. And so that one person that I picked was the person I actually got to meet last summer, as you can see in this photo here, holding his National League MVP, one of the 2 that he got, Mr. Dale Murphy. Now, Dell was, definitely a long ball hitter. He is one of of only a couple of the ones that I'm going to put here that isn't in the Hall of Fame. Really, he played majority of his career from 76 until 1990 with the Braves. He did spend a little bit with the Philadelphia Phillies and then ended up with the Colorado Rockies, where, listening to him talk, one of the stories he had was when he couldn't hit a home run out of the Colorado Rockies stadium, he knew his career was over. Nice guy, and one of the things I think a lot of people don't realize is that Dale Murphy did not start off in the outfield like he played pretty much his entire career. Now, last year in, I think it was Update, the flagship Update product, they actually did cards that never were. And one of those cards was the position that he played, and that would have been, Dale Murphy actually came in as a catcher. He was not a outfielder at the time. But, the Braves did not use him. This card really never existed until they made one last year. And it's kind of cool I actually pulled it because, again, he is one of my childhood heroes that I followed. But what I ended up pulling was this. Or not pulling, but buying was this. This is a 1982 Dale Murphy card. 82 was one of the 2 years that he won the National League MVP. And I actually had to go back and look. I think it's actually the photo I put up is that 1982. He actually won back-to-back seasons. He did 82 and 83. 7-time All-Star, 5-time Gold Glove champion, 4-time Silver Slugger, won the Roberto Clemente Award. He was the 2 times National League home run leader, 2 times National League RBI leader. Plenty of stats that sound good. Problem is he only got a little over 2,000 hits and a little over, or almost 400 home runs. He actually hit 398. Really not the numbers that you typically look for a Hall of Fame career. And he actually now is no longer, unless the Veterans Committee puts him in, his balloting is now done. His number is also, number 3 is also retired with the Atlanta Braves. And you can actually see a lot of his awards and his uniform if you ever go to Truist Field and actually, go to the Monument Garden. Also, and I'll plug his forum, every year he has multiple, what he calls the MVP experiences, Del Murphy, where he'll walk around, you have lunch with him at his restaurant, he'll tell stories, sign things, take you up, you see Power Alley, and get a tour of the stadium and actually get to watch a game with him. So for me, my boys bought it for me for Father's Day, and I cannot complain to spend the day with, again, one of my childhood heroes. So Card 7, Dale Murphy. Now let's go ahead and look at card number 8. Now for card number 8, this one actually is a real special one, not only because I like the player, actually we went to Florida State at the same time, but this actually is one of my grail cards. This is one I've been wanting for a long time and finally got to actually win it in auction and actually won it cheap. For player number 8, this player is one of the two greatest two sports players of all times. Obviously, I've opened up and you've seen a lot of Bo Jackson. All you got to do is look at any of the upper deck and you'll see a lot of Bo Jackson. But that second player, and I've pulled his card a lot before, is Primetime, Deion Sanders. Again, I mentioned Deion went to Florida State, but Deion also spent some time, he spent 9 years playing baseball and he spent 14 playing football. Obviously a two-sport player. He actually played for both Atlanta teams at the same time, both the Falcons and the Braves, and that's why this card actually is one of those special ones to me. That upper deck from 1992, which I haven't pulled yet, but I got this one, showing where he actually was playing for the Braves and the Falcons at the same time. Now, Primetime has a lot, Deion has a lot of great accomplishments. He is the only player ever to have, went to the Super Bowl and World Series. Both of those, Super Bowl he's actually won it a couple times, and then World Series he went in 1992. So he's the only athlete ever to do both. He's also was almost the only athlete to actually play a Major League Baseball game and an NFL game on the same day. Back in 1992, October 11th to be exact, he actually was playing for the Falcons down in Miami, and that was a 1 o'clock game. From there, the Braves were actually in the NLCS playing against the Pirates. Nike sponsored it, but they actually flew him after the game. They flew him from Miami to Pittsburgh, and he suited up. Now, one of the problems that he ran into, because obviously playing in Miami in October, it's still a bit hot. He actually had to go into the locker room and get an IV just to rehydrate. So that actually delayed him a little bit, but they did get him to the game. He showed up at Three Rivers Stadium at 8:28 and suited up just before the first pitch. So he was suited up. Unfortunately, they never put him in the game. So he was able to, but he never got to play both sports at the same time. But he was the only player ever to even try. Again, this Primetime, being a Seminole like myself, and also a Brave and a Falcon, definitely this was one of my grail cards. And this was honestly one of the greatest cards I think I've ever found of him. So that's why this one's in my collection. Let's move on to the last but not least, card 9. Another great Brave. And finally, card number 9, player that actually played his entire career with the Braves. He's also the last player ever to be inducted in the Hall of Fame for the Braves organization as of now, as being 2022. And that player being Chipper Jones. And of course, this is Chipper Jones' rookie card. Now, this isn't the rookie. There is another rookie card I am chasing of his. But one of the more valuable ones is, if you would look in this corner here, there'd be a Desert Shield logo. Unfortunately, those cards tend to run from the hundreds to the thousands of dollars for especially the good graded ones. And finding good graded ones are hard because you could only get that card if you actually were in the campaign back in the Desert Shield days. So not many cards came back good. But as I mentioned, Chipper Jones, he played his entire career with the Braves from 1991 until 2012. He actually did not play. He actually didn't start really playing until 1993. I do have his prospect card from 91 from Upper Deck. And the funny thing about his prospect, and even this one, is that you notice that he was playing shortstop. He actually was a third baseman most of his career. Now, Chipper was another great one. He MVP once. He actually was an 8-time All-Star. went to the won the World Series in 1995, just like the triplets did. He got his MVP in 89, or sorry, 99. Two-time Silver Slugger, MLB batting champion. Obviously, he's got a retired number also, much like most of the cards that I've mentioned. But he was the only switch hitter that in 5,000 bats, he actually had a 300 batting average, a 400 on base percentage, and a 500 slugging percentage. Other players had done it. Matter of fact, 18 others had done it. He's the only switch hitter ever to do that, which actually made it, pretty special. He has the most career RBIs as a third baseman, and holds team records for on-base percentage for the Braves. So as a switch hitter, he is the only player in MLB history to have a career batting average of over 300 and a 400 or more home runs. Matter of fact, home run wise, he actually hit 468. Currently, he is actually one of the coaches for the Braves. So not only does he have the 95 World Series ring, he was a hitting coach last year during the 2021 World Series Championship, so he actually wears them both. So with that, that's the reason why Chipper, of course, the perennial Brave, is the 9th card of my collection. So that's it. That is the first of the 9-card collection. Obviously, I didn't mention prices as I was doing. Still learning the ropes on how I want to do this. But the total for this one, broken down per card, it looks like this. But overall, for these 9 cards, I spent a total of $60 and some change. So it wasn't much, and we're definitely well under our $100 average. The other thing I want to point out, of these 9 players, 8 of the 9 actually have their numbers retired. And here's the list of retired based on the current date from actually this picture at Truist Field. Of these 8 players, there is 10 there. You got to take Jackie Robinson because he's retired league-wide, but only number 6, Bobby Cox, and number 35, Phil Niekro, did not make my top 9 cards. So that's it for the first try of this. Now let's go ahead and randomize and find out who's our next theme. What our next theme will be. Now, this being the first one, if you notice, of course, I don't have the Braves here, but I do have the teams, I have positions, I have decades, other special things like Rookie of the Year, whole career of one team. There's not very many of those. Different kind of themes we can grab. If anybody has any, make sure you go ahead and drop it in the comment section, and I will add it to this. Obviously, there's a ton of things that you can do, and so we want to make this as cool as possible, but let's find out what the next one is. And of course, as I pull a theme, I will basically remove it from the list. So let's go ahead and select this. And we're so used to seeing this, anyone that does any sort of breaks. And there they all are. I'm going to randomize this 5 times, and then whatever's at the top will be next month's theme. So fingers crossed it's something y'all want to see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and the number 1 will be Gold Glove winners. So next month we're going to be pulling, or at least for the next month, I'm going to be trying to grab the 9 Gold Glove winner cards. So we will see what we got. So that's it. Our first 9-card collection challenge is in the books. And I really look forward to next month actually pulling those Golden Glove winners. I got to start thinking who I'd want to put on there. But definitely this was a fun one. And I hope you enjoy this too. And if you enjoy this kind of stuff, or just watching people open cards in general, because I do that a lot too. Actually, I do that more than I've done this. This is the first time. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe down below and hit that notify so you get notified when I put new stuff up. I have other plans of other type of content that I'm going to put up. Still got to figure out how I'm going to do that. Also, I'm going to be working this out. So if you have any comments on potentially what might be better, what you'd like to see more of, or how I can improve, go ahead and drop it in the comment section and go ahead and hit that like button for the video. I appreciate taking the time being a guinea pig of the first time ever doing one of these collection challenges. It was fun. I know it took me a while to put it together, trying to figure out everything I'm going to do. Of course, then putting the video together is going to take me a little bit of time. But definitely enjoyed it and enjoy bringing this to you. So until next time, bye now.